The spoon reached my lips, and though every part of me wanted to shut down, push it away, keep it far, something else took control. I opened my mouth slowly, almost as if I were in a trance. The light, warm liquid touched my tongue, and in that instant, everything changed. The flavor was mild, but enough to awaken something I didn't understand, something that terrified me. It was as if that liquid had fallen directly into an abyss within me, an abyss that roared, that stirred, that was alive. My insides churned, not out of rejection, but from a primal, uncontrollable need. The monstrosity inside me awoke. I felt it move, stretch, tearing me apart from within. A guttural roar escaped my throat, a sound that didn't seem human, that wasn't mine. I opened my eyes, and the faces of the doctor, Andy, and Mom twisted into something I'd never seen before, pure terror. My mouth opened wider than it should have been possible, an unnatural movement that ripped my lips and stretched my skin toward my cheeks. Andy didn't have time to react as my teeth clamped onto the spoon, almost catching his fingers. I spat it out forcefully, and then everything overflowed. Hunger consumed me entirely. My body moved on its own as if it no longer belonged to me. The trays of food were all I could see. I lunged at them like an animal, tearing at the food with my hands, stuffing my mouth with everything I found, but almost nothing actually made it to my stomach. The bed, my clothes, my hair, everything was covered in food and saliva. I could hear Mom sobbing hysterically. I didn't want to look at her. I didn't want to see the pain I was causing her, but I couldn't stop. My body no longer obeyed me. The door burst open, and a group of people rushed in. Their hands tried to hold me, restrain me, but all I felt was more fury, more hunger. Amid the struggle, I knew what was going to happen a second before it did, as if the monster inside me had whispered it to me. My teeth found a forearm. My incisors pierced the skin, cut through muscle and tissue until they fully closed. A blood-curdling scream filled the room, but it wasn't mine. The person tried to pull away, and that movement tore away the chunk I had bitten. The taste of flesh, of blood, was different. It wasn't like food. It didn't fill the abyss, but it was enough to ignite it, to make it roar louder. Everything around me turned to chaos. Screaming voices, hands trying to immobilize me, Mom's desperate crying. But I could only think of the hunger, of that thing inside me that wouldn't leave me in peace. The metallic, salty taste of blood lingered on my tongue, mixing with the remnants of the food that had barely reached my stomach. Suddenly, I felt a blow to my chest, as if someone had driven a fist into my guts. Disgust arrived like a wave, washing everything away. It was as if my body, my very being, was rejecting what I had done, what I had allowed. A burning nausea took over me, starting deep in my stomach and surging uncontrollably toward my throat. I tried to breathe, but the air wouldn't come in. The smell of food, of blood, of mixed saliva clung to my nostrils, to my skin. It was suffocating, overwhelming. I wanted to pull away, escape, but my muscles wouldn't respond. A scorching heat rose through my throat, burning me inside like liquid fire. Then it came, uncontrollable, unstoppable. I opened my mouth and let it out. Vomit poured onto the bed, a grotesque mix of barely chewed food, thick blood, and gastric juices. The sound that accompanied the vomiting was so violent I felt my insides twisting with every contraction. My throat burned, my eyes filled with tears, and every time I thought I was done, a new wave tore through me like an electric shock. My entire body trembled, weak and broken, as the vomit kept coming, covering the bed and the nearby floor. I could hear their voices. Screams of horror, gasps. Someone was crying. Another murmured something I didn't understand. I knew they were looking at me with a mix of terror, pity, and worry. My chest heaved as if I had run for miles, but the air still wasn't enough. I felt the heat on my face was unbearable, that my head was spinning. Violeta! I heard a voice, maybe Andy's or the doctor's, but it sounded so distant, as if they were calling me from another world. The nausea was gone, but the emptiness it left was worse. A darkness began to cloud my vision. My body stopped feeling the cold vomit on my skin, the burning in my throat, the weight of the disgust. Everything faded slowly, like a candle at the end of its wick. The last thing I felt was the brush of hands trying to hold me before I fell into the void. The world was silent, but not at peace. Without opening my eyes, my mind began to explore the surroundings, searching for answers in the darkness behind my eyelids. The first thing I noticed was the smell. A sharp and clean aroma, pure alcohol and disinfectant, the typical hospital scent. I'm still in this place. My head felt damp and cold, as if someone had wiped me with a wet cloth. The memory of what had happened before slowly crept into my mind, like a knife breaking through water. I didn't want to remember it, but it was impossible to avoid. I tried to move, but my body felt heavy, immovable, as if someone had placed an enormous stone on top of me. I could barely perceive my limbs, weak, almost useless. The mere idea of getting up seemed as absurd as trying to fly. My throat was a desert. Each breath scraped my insides as if they were made of sandpaper. It was a dry, persistent pain I couldn't ignore. My mouth wasn't any better, rough, parched, with a strange taste. Something between toothpaste and mouthwash, fresh but entirely artificial. Had they cleaned me after what happened? I silently thanked them for not feeling any trace of food, neither in my mouth nor in the air. I wouldn't have been able to bear it. Despite my weakness, that small detail, the absence of any edible smell or taste, brought me a shred of relief, however minimal. My stomach was empty, I knew that, but I wasn't hungry. Just that persistent void, that echo of what had once been an insatiable need. I felt all this, thought all this, without yet daring to open my eyes. As if keeping them closed would protect me from reality, as if doing so could avoid facing what would surely come next. The disgust was still there, in some corner of my mind, along with the fear and horror of what I had done. The silence began to break, slowly but steadily, with soft echoes taking shape in my mind. At first, they were just murmurs, blurry and distant sounds, as if coming from another world. But as I focused, the words began to outline themselves, and the voices became recognizable. One of them. I knew it. Yes, it was the doctor's voice. Her tone was firm, but there was a weight of concern in every word she said. Along with her was another voice, masculine. At first, I thought it was Andy, but something about the timbre and the way he spoke didn't fit. I didn't know this voice. I stayed still, listening. What happened with the nurse left me stunned. The doctor said with a sigh I could almost see in the air. I've never seen anything like it. How is he? Asked the man, his voice calm, though I could sense a tinge of curiosity or unease in his tone. He was treated urgently. They cleaned and stitched the wound. Then he was sent home. He seems fine, but it was the shock more than anything. What happened? What Violeta did? The doctor didn't finish her sentence. My heart beat faster. I closed my eyes tightly, wanting to disappear into the darkness of my own mind, but I knew they had seen me. The doctor stayed silent for a moment, then her voice rose, softer this time. Violeta, sweetie, are you awake? I didn't have the strength to answer with words. I barely moved my fingers, hoping that would be enough. I heard her footsteps coming closer and felt her gaze fixed on me. "Hello, Violeta. Are you feeling better?" she said with a warmth that almost hurt. I didn't respond with my voice, only nodded. "I want to introduce you to someone." I opened my eyes slowly. In front of me stood the doctor, but there was also a man, tall, dark-haired, with a calm but attentive expression. His eyes examined me carefully, though not in a way that made me feel threatened. "This is Miguel Bocanegra, my good friend. He's a very skilled doctor and wants to talk to you." Miguel's gaze softened when he saw me. I said nothing because I couldn't. My throat was still dry, as if filled with sand. The doctor seemed to notice immediately and picked up a glass of water from a nearby table. "Here you go, sweetie," she said, helping me sit up just enough to drink. I held the glass with trembling hands and took a sip. Just enough to wet my throat, but not enough to risk losing control. "That's better, isn't it?" the doctor said with a smile that seemed as tired as it was hopeful. "Would you like to talk a little with Miguel? I'll stay with you the whole time, so you don't feel scared or uneasy." Her words offered some comfort, though not enough to erase my nervousness. I looked at the man, then at the doctor, and nodded slowly. I didn't want to, but something in their eyes told me I had to try. "All right," Miguel said in a calm, almost soothing voice. "We'll take all the time you need, Violeta. You don't have to worry about anything." I felt slightly calmer hearing Miguel's gentle voice, though the knot in my stomach didn't disappear. The fear remained, curled up in the back of my throat, like a lump that choked me whenever I tried to speak. The doctor was nearby. I could feel her, and that constant presence made me feel slightly safer, but not enough. "Violeta, I'm glad you're here. The first thing is, I want you to know there's no rush, okay? If at any moment you feel uncomfortable, just say so and we'll stop," Miguel said. I nodded again without opening my eyes, as if I didn't dare fully face my surroundings. "I want to know more about what you feel when you start to feel that hunger. What happens in your body?" The silence stretched for a moment. I felt the weight of the question, but I couldn't avoid it. The fear, the confusion, the urge to flee overcame me once more. It's like I have no control. I start to feel that my stomach empties, and then it's like everything inside me tightens, like I have an urgent need to eat. My voice came out broken. I couldn't help it. Miguel observed me carefully, keeping his gaze calm, but inwardly, I knew he was concerned by the intensity of what I described. The doctor watched too, but said nothing. "Is it like suddenly everything becomes blurry, or do you struggle to focus on anything else?" "Yes, everything blurs. I can't think about anything else. I just want to eat. And when I do, I felt my hands clutching the sheet. It's not normal. It's like something monstrous, something outside of me." Miguel took a moment to process what I had just said. "He must think I'm crazy. I must be crazy." The doctor stayed attentive, but didn't intervene yet. "I understand. It seems very hard, Violeta. And I imagine it's not just the hunger, but something else. Do you feel as if you can't stop it?" "Yes, no. I can't control it." I nodded quickly. "It's like something inside me wakes up and controls me. It forces me to eat, to devour everything." The doctor and Miguel exchanged a quick glance. Though Miguel remained kind, a palpable tension filled the air. "And afterwards, when you're done, how do you feel?" It's horrible." My voice trembled. "Afterwards, Afterwards, I feel like I'm a monster, that everything I did was stupid, and I feel dirty. I couldn't hold back the tears, and everything came out. The doctor looked at me with a mix of concern and sadness, but Miguel stayed firm. Violeta, had you ever felt anything similar before this started? Anything that made you feel this way? I stayed silent, thoughtful. No, I had never felt this before, but I wasn't sure of anything anymore. No, never. It's like something has changed inside me, something horrible. You don't have to feel bad about that, Violeta. Everything you're feeling is real, but we're here to help you. Would you like to talk more about how you feel now, or would you prefer to rest a bit? I stayed silent for a few seconds, my body tense, my breathing still uneven. Finally, I nodded slightly. I want to rest. I don't know. I don't want to think anymore. That's okay, Violeta. We'll let you rest. You know we're here if you need anything. The doctor gave me one last gentle smile before they both slowly stood up. I watched them, but my mind remained trapped in the memories of what I had just recounted. The unanswered questions, the sensations I didn't understand, all kept spinning in my head. I just wanted to sleep, to forget for a while, and for everything that had happened to disappear.